Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second episode of Generations of the Game. I'm your host, JP, along with my boy Will Lyons. Will, how you doing today, brother?
I'm great, brother. How are you?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. Can't wait to talk about sports today. And I guess we should jump right into it right away. I guess the first topic of the day will be the college football playoffs that just happened. Um, as we know, the final four teams for the college football playoff for January 1st will be Michigan versus Alabama and Washington versus the University of Texas. Now, seems like we have a problem here, though, Will, with as far as Florida State being 13-0 ACC champions and not getting into the college playoffs when Alabama and Texas both have one loss.
Absolutely. I mean, I fully understand and acknowledge the strength that is the SEC, but it's pretty hard to, jump over an undefeated team. Florida State, they did what they were asked to do. They beat everyone in front of them, and it's not to say that Bama's not a great team, but it's just hard, it makes you question what the committee truly evaluates at the end of the day.
Right. I think there's a couple of things here. I think people are looking at this Florida State angle from the fact that they had a third string quarterback in that threw for 55 yards. And they struggled with Louisville, who has been struggling. Even though they're the number 14 team in the country, this is also the same Louisville team who lost to a 2-8 Pittsburgh University of Pittsburgh team as well. So I really do think that they considered that, the committee considered that, and also with their quarterback Travis being out for the year, who was really the heart and soul of that team. And I guess to look at the strength of schedule, Will. Mm-hmm. Alabama has the 5th ranked strength of schedule. Florida State had the 55th ranked strength of schedule. And Alabama also beat LSU, who Florida State also beat first game of the season. And they beat the University of Mississippi as well, who's in the top 10. And this is what people would say. We beat the number 1 team in the country, who had a 24-game winning streak, University of Georgia. So I guess the committee considered that as well. And you had to put Texas in over Alabama because Texas could be like, wait a minute. We beat Alabama at Alabama and beat them pretty good by I think 10 points. Was it 37-27? So in my opinion, I think the committee got it right. I understand Florida State, and Florida State is a historically great program as well. But I think the committee got this one right as far as putting Alabama in because they did beat the man. As it's saying, if Ric Flair says for you to be the man, you got to beat the man. And Alabama did beat the man.
Absolutely.
So I guess I look at it from that. Go ahead.
Right.
You would say something?
No, I was gonna say, you make a great point, JP. And I'm looking at it through the lens of, just maybe a sports writer, maybe a fan, but at the end of the day, the committee is obligated to do their best to give quality matchups. And at the end of the day, Florida State, if they're 100% healthy, totally different situation. But with a third string quarterback, he's lining those boys up for slaughter, throwing them in there against Michigan, So I think you're right, man,
Right. What we should be mad at is that this should have been, if we had a 6-team playoff, which they're going to 8 next year. But say, for instance, we had an 8, we're not even going to 6. We had an 8-game playoff starting this year. There would be this issue would be mute because the best 8 teams in the country would be there.
Exactly.
I guess you got your four that you got there. You would have Florida State,
Yep.
Ohio State,
Hmm.
Georgia, and I guess you throw in what, University of Mississippi? They're the top 10 team, or you know. So I guess that would be it right there.
Exactly. No, you're
Yeah.
right.
So you
When
yeah.
you
So you know.
when you limited
Oh,
the
go ahead,
four,
Will.
when you limited the four, it's tough, because
Mhm.
it's always going to be somebody that's left out.
Right. Right. Exactly, man. You know, and I feel bad for Florida State. I mean, those kids played hard, practiced hard all year, go 13-0, and then not in. And you know, I have a big problem with the NCAA anyway. We'll discuss that for a later show about the hypocrisy of the NCAA anyway. So, you know, so not to uncover with the NCAA and some of the stuff that they do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I
Also,
think
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna say the last thing for me as far as like college football playoff, I just think
Mhm.
of course it's tough, because me being a little heavier, into the basketball side of things, in that format, it really does end up being everybody gets for the most part, once you make the tournament, everybody has a shake, you know.
Mhm.
And by the time you get to the final four, it's whoever won, legitimately just like won their way there. In college football playoff, when it coming down to a committee vote, there's always going to be some room for scrutiny.
Right. Right. I agree with you, brother. Definitely agree with you on that. Also, into the world of college football, let's talk about the Heisman Trophy, which will be on Saturday night in New York City, the Downtown Touchdown Club.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the four finalists right now is Michael Penix, quarterback, University of Washington; Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, Ohio State; Jaden Daniels, quarterback, LSU; and Bo Nix, the quarterback from the University of Oregon. We have four finalists here, Will. In your opinion, who do you think should be the winner of this year's Heisman Trophy?
Man, it's four phenomenal players, that really left it all on the field. But if I had to choose one, I think I have to go with the quarterback from LSU. It's not strictly just a numbers game, but when you look at the full body of work, you can argue that, he was the best individual player, um, threw for, I think, around 4,000 yards, ran for like 1,000, I think he had like 10 rushing touchdowns to go along with, it had to be 40 passing touchdowns. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
account for 50 TDs, and LSU, just by the nature of the conference they play in, they're not ducking any smoke,
Mm-mm.
So even though they took some losses, they were in wars every single game, and he single-handedly was keeping them in every game.
Yes, I agree. If I had to give a Heisman vote, it will be to Jaden Daniels, definitely. He had a phenomenal year. He played big basically in all the games this year. Didn't really have a bad game this year. If you're asking me who the best player in the country is, though, I think it's Marvin Harrison Jr.
Mhm.
Considering he didn't have CJ Stroud back there throwing to him this year. McCord was a good quarterback, but he didn't have CJ Stroud. The the other wide receiver for Ohio State, I forget, Amuka. I forget his name. The brother wears number 2. He's considered to be a first round pick. He missed some games. Trayvon Henderson missed some games. The running back. And despite all that, Marvin Harrison still put up his numbers.
Mhm.
He had a great year. He played big in the big games as well. But and Michael Penix, undefeated Washington, had a great year. Bo Nix, Oregon had a great year. So if I had to vote, I would definitely put Daniels 1, Penix 2, Probably Marvin Harrison 3 and Knicks 4. That would be the way I would vote. I would do my Heisman vote. Some people say, well, Bo Nix should be 3, but I would put them at number 4.
No, I agree with that, and I do think it speaks volumes because when you look at each of these players, they do of course have a case, but Harrison, we talked about him last week, man. He is truly a player that you cannot stop. Defensive coordinators, man, getting paid big bucks. They know more football than we could ever forget. But when it comes down to it, you can have whatever game plan you want. But when you step on that field, God bless. Like Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do, man. And, he really has to stop himself, or the quarterback has to miss him, for him to not make the play.
Yeah, he's big. He's big time, man. Definitely big time player. Absolutely. And the defending Heisman Trophy winner, of course, is Caleb Williams. He had a great year this year. He had a very good year, but unfortunately, he will not be in New York for the presentation of it. But he'll be the number 1 pick in the draft, though, for sure.
He won't be playing in the bowl game either. He's protecting that investment.
Oh yeah, which I don't blame him. Which I don't blame him. And what discuss the bowl games coming up in the future. Of course, we have to make our predictions before the Final Four and a couple other games too that are going to be played that we'll see. Also, sticking with the world of college sports, we have to discuss the haul at the University of Rutgers basketball team brought in. Unbelievable recruiting class.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, it's more than a 2-man class, but, the crown jewels of the class, the number 2 and number 3, ranked players in the country. Dylan Harper, New Jersey's own, staying home, adding to the family legacy at Rutgers, after his brother Ron Harper Jr., is one of the better players in, Scarlet Knights history and recent memory, and, Dylan, he's a difference maker, man. He's a really big guard. I know people say that a lot, but he's a legitimate 6'6", left-handed player. One of the few players, and this was, I think he was a junior and DJ was a senior, who, he had his way, against a talented, Camden team.
Yes.
And, he's not super athletic, but he can shoot it. He can handle it. He can pass it. He doesn't really have true holes in his game. And with, the plus size, he's going to be a problem. And then you got Ace Bailey, super athlete, at 6'8", room to grow offensively, and with his approach to the game. But just off what he can do, with his natural gifts, and playing with such a smart player in Harper and with an underrated coach in, Pikel, who has beaten, some high-ranked teams, Purdue, and a few others over the years. Man, I think they're cooking with something in Piscataway.
I agree with you, man. Harper, he reminds me kind of like a Devin Booker type. I guess that would be the best way to describe him. Devin Booker / maybe a James Harden type player.
Mm-hmm.
He can get buckets for you anytime. Like you said, we saw him last year play against very, very talented definitely one of the top 5 teams in the country last year, Camden, and I think he had like 34, 35 points in that game. Even though his team did get second half, Camden took it to him, but he played very well against them. I was impressed with him last year, actually, when they played against Camden. When they played against them last year, and Harper's a very talented player. His dad, before his knee injury, was very, very super athletic. His dad's hops, but He's a heck of a player. And Ace Bailey, oh my goodness, Will. I mean, what can you say? A lot of people say that he has the most potential in this class, even over Cooper Flag.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that statement. I do. I just think that when you project 5, 10 years down the road, Ace can add, strength and weight to his frame. Is already an imposing player, but he can get stronger. He can play a 4 for you. The handles coming along, the shots coming along. He can play the 3 for you. And the natural athleticism he brings to the game. He's gonna be a problem, man.
Oh, I love that kid's game. I've seen highlights of him. He's like 6'8", 6'9", got a long wingspan, can jump out the gym. Has a nice jump shot, nice mid-range game. Yeah. You know who he reminds me of a little bit? Just a little bit. He reminds me of a young Dominique Wilkins.
Ooh.
I know. I went there. I went there with it. Because he reminds me a little bit of Dominique Wilkins. He has a little Dominique Wilkins in him. And Dominique Wilkins has a son that's going to Georgia that's going to be phenomenal as well. And he reminds me of his dad. But Ace Bailey reminds me a little bit of Dominique Wilkins. Mm-hmm. And Rutgers, they bring those two in with the core that they have. The core players they have, what's his name? Who's the players that they have? I know one of them Simpson from Lenape. He's a very, very good player. Mm-hmm. Very good player on this level. And who are the two big men they have, Will?
Cliff Omayori, the center. If he comes back, and then the impact freshman you and I were talking about the other day, Griffiths, man, the kid with the goggles, the shooter.
The shooter, he can shoot.
Mm-hmm. They will have a tough core, man. You bring in a transfer or two, you might be looking at the top 10 team in the country.
I put it this way. I think potentially a Final Four team next year. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves and everything because we can't project in the next year what's going to happen. But on paper, if they keep everything there, like you said, get a transfer or two in, which very could well happen. Mm-hmm. They could potentially be a Final Four team next year because I really do believe Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper can be franchise level players going beyond the college level.
Absolutely.
Potentially. Everything's based on potential. Potentially. So, their recruiting class is right up there with Duke, Kentucky, and they put a hell of a class together, man. And Rutgers, look, with this class right here, Rutgers is going to be here, man. Not saying they're going to get a top 5 class every year, which they're not going to do, but they're going to be in the thick of things in the Big Ten. They're going to be a national powerhouse potentially.
Absolutely, man. Rutgers ain't had, reason to be this excited in a long time, man. The Ron Harper teams, of course, were good. But, when you think about the last kind of high-ranked recruit, you got to go back a ways, man. You talking about Mike Rosario, or before that, Quincy Doobie. So, Rutgers fans have been missing for a long time.
And Will, I'll take you back further than that. The first real big recruit they had was a guy back in the mid-'70s named Phil Sellers. Rest in peace. He passed away a couple of months ago. But Dick Vitale was assistant coach there. He recruited him. They went to the Final Four in 1976. And then in the late 70s, they had a kid by the name of James Bailey, who wound up being the number 7 pick who went to the Seattle Supersonics. He also was a great player that Rutgers had back in that era. So, back in the 70s, Rutgers was a powerhouse. But I agree with you. When you had Mike Rosario, who was at St. Anthony's, was a hell of a player, man. And Quincy Doobie and them back in the 2008, 2010 era, they had a pretty good team, man.
Absolutely, brother.
So, shout out to Rutgers, man, for for this recruiting haul that they have. Because I mean, that's a great recruiting haul for any school, man. For any school.
Absolutely, it's gonna be tough.
Okay, as we said. Oh, go ahead. What were you saying?
I was gonna say it's gonna be tough to get tickets next season.
That's what I was thinking too. It used to be the state championship games
Mm-hmm.
where they used to get the most people. Now their games, that's gonna be the toughest ticket in town.
Absolutely,
They might have to play a couple of those games at the Garden.
that'll be fire.
Yeah, it would. It would be. It would definitely be fire. I guess another game we could talk about while we're in the world of college hoops. North Carolina and UConn the other night. Played a game at the Garden the other night. Good game, but UConn seemed to handle them pretty good the other night.
Yeah. So the thing that sticks out to me is that UNC's only consistent player seems to be the transfer from Stanford, Harrison Ingram. He's being a consistent scoring threat for him. The issue with that is that's not. I mean, he can score, but he rebounds and he's a facilitator. From the wing by nature. So that kind of changes the way he likes to play. And when you bring back R.J. Davis and the center Becott, you expect to have a little more production, from these guys. And I do have to shout out, the freshman point guard, Elliot Cadeau, because he's
Cadeau, yeah.
To be a very gifted young playmaker. But with the way they brought back some returners and also hit the transfer portal, you just kind of hope for more. But I have to question. Just to be honest, JP, I have to just question what's going on from the coaching perspective, because they do have some talent.
Right. You would like you said with Babcock back and R.J. Davis and Cadeau, the point guard. That's a nice little core right there. Well, but look, they're back in the top 20. They had a down year last year, but they're back in the top 20. I really felt Simon Welcher was going to stay with him too, but he left and went to St. John's instead as a freshman. But UConn has a great team, man. The kid they have, Newton, one of the guards, Castle, the freshman. And what's the big man's name? I forget his. I'm having a brain freeze real quick. Yeah. He's he's a load in the middle, man. 7'1", 7'2". I actually think he could play in the NBA one day. I really do think he's an NBA player. Definitely. And also Danny Hurley, man, is a hell of a coach, man. He's from that Hurley coaching tree, man. And he's done a great job. He's built them back to a powerhouse, and I think they have staying power. They're going to be the powerhouse of the Big East.
I agree. They're doing a good job of recruiting the type of players that they want in their system, developing those guys and keeping them around. And they also hit the transfer portal too. But keeping your guys in this day and age is important, man. And I think that Klingon definitely is a impact player. And Newton, oh my goodness, those guards have been killing. The one player that I actually come away impressed with every time I watch UConn is Caravan. On the perimeter, man. That guy, he shoots it.
He can shoot the ball. He can shoot it.
With confidence, man. And he moves the ball if he doesn't have the shot. And he's the type of player, that every team needs, a deep threat with a high IQ, and I think UConn, you can argue that there's a lot of teams that may have, more star power in a sense, but UConn is just built as a collective force and they play together every single game. And that's dangerous. And that's the type of play that will carry you in March.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. They're the type of team that's going to get better as the year goes on. And for them to have another Final Four run or a national championship run, it to me is not out of the question, and it won't surprise me, man. Like I said, Danny Hurley has really built a very, very, very nice program at Stores, Connecticut, man. I mean, UConn. Shout outs to them, man. They're gonna have a great year this year.
Yep.
As we segue now into the world of the NFL. Will the world of the NFL? I guess we could start with the big game this weekend. Dallas, Texas, Jerry's world. Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys. Everything's on the line. The winner of this game, basically, I believe, could control their destiny. Although Dallas does have two tough games coming up with the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. Buffalo on the road in Buffalo. That could be problems for Dallas with the weather. We don't know what the weather's going to be like. And they have to go to Miami to play Miami with that dangerous Tyreek Hill Tua combination. But let's look at this game, man. The Eagles versus Dallas. What do you think, Scott? How do you see this game being played out?
Man, I think that it's going to be a very close game. I think that rivalry, it always lives up to the expectation, and I really think this game will have a little more chippiness to it because of the battle for the services of former All-Pro linebacker Shaquille Leonard. It came down to Dallas, and Philly, and him choosing Philly and saying he chose them because he felt like he had a better chance to win. That winning culture, and the coach. I feel like that's bulletin board material for the Cowboys. It's like, okay, you don't want to join us, well, we're gonna have to kick your butt, and send you back home, But I don't know, man. It just feels like the type of year where I cannot write off the Eagles. I think Dallas is gonna give it everything that they have. But if Philly gets the ball, with any time left, we've seen what they can do.
Yeah. Never bet against Jalen Hurts, man. That's the one thing I can say. Never bet against Jalen Hurts. I think it comes down to the Philly front seven getting pressure on Dak, making him uncomfortable. The secondary, of course, going to play better than last week that they did against San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Deebo Samuels was Deebo in that game against them. The Eagles receivers, I really think they're going to be a key in this game, man. If the Eagles are going to win, Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, they're going to be a key in this game, man. So I think they can attack those corners for Dallas, as we saw last week. DJ Metcalf went for $134 and 3 touchdowns, but somehow, some way, Pete Carroll went away from that and went more to a running game against Seattle instead of exploiting what he had with the receivers that he has. But this game is going to be tough, man. I think it could come down to the final possession, who has the ball. We're going to find out who wants it more. Dak played super when he was in Philadelphia. Can he play super again and in Jerry's world? So we'll see what happens, man, with that.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. I'm looking forward to it as well, man. Definitely. Okay, I guess we could go on now, segue into the NBA play-in tournament. Earlier tonight, we had this, before this recording started, Indiana Pacers versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Can you give us an update on that game for us, Will?
I can, man. I can pull up the score, but before I get the exact numbers, I can tell you that MVP candidate, and that's right, it's official at this point. Tyrese Halliburton, man, is a special talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that nobody thought, the Pacers would be anywhere close to, the caliber that they played at this season. They're 12-8 right now through the first 20 games. And, they just knocked off a tough Milwaukee Bucks led by Giannis and Dame. These guys, I feel like at first some people may have thought it was luck, but these guys, man, have shown that they're legit, man. They won 128-119 over the Bucks. And, Halliburton had 27 points, 7 rebounds, 15 assists. This is vintage Steve Nash assist numbers, but, with a little more
Scoring.
assertiveness, right? When it comes time to score the ball, and Halliburton, when we were talking before about big guards, Halliburton is one of them, man. Legit 6'5", 6'6". I feel like in the draft and everything, and a lot of people, casuals watching, they just look at the shot mechanics, and they're like, they write them off, but that shot is money, and he's improved as much as any player in the league since he's come to the league.
Oh man, he's big time. We talked about him last week. He's big time. He's playing like you said, at an MVP type candidate level. Mm-hmm. He's definitely played that. Miles Turner is also giving him some good minutes. What's the kid Mathune? He's a very solid player. Buddy Hield coming off the bench, giving them buckets. They have a nice core there, man, that they have, and they're exciting to watch too. They are an exciting team to watch, man.
Absolutely, they push that pace.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The second game that we have, which is taking place right now at the time of this recording, is the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Should be outstanding matchup. Zion Williamson versus the King, LeBron James, Brandon Ingram. You got Anthony Davis. You got CJ McCollum. And the Lakers supporting cast in this game, man. It's man, that's a tough game to pick. You can never bet against the Lakers. And the Pelicans are playing very well as well. Zion Williamson's been playing very well lately. How do you see this matchup going happening?
I think the athleticism and skill of the young Pelicans will push the Lakers, but I think ultimately the veteran experience of the Lakers will probably lead them to victory. We got LeBron putting up what would be career numbers for most players in year 21. AD is in a groove right now. He's the biggest thing. He's out there, on the court, instead of on the sideline. And the role players, man, they're excelling in their roles, whatever is being asked of them. And D'Lo has stepped it up as of late too. He's looking like I'm not trying to, say he's going to be an all-star or anything like that this year, but he looks like all-star year D'Lo in spurts.
Yeah. Also, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Cam Reddish as well. Mm-hmm. Cam Reddish, I feel, has always been a solid player. Just never got an opportunity, really. But I think he's found a home in LA, and he's been playing pretty well for the Lakers. Also, they have a deep bench, and we got to remember the Lakers are still basically getting healthy. Vanderbilt just came back the other day, and what's the guard for Miami?
Gabe Vincent.
Yeah, Gabe Vincent hasn't even played yet. Mm-hmm. So the Lakers are going to have a tough team, man, to contend with. They're going to be, when they get everybody healthy, they're going to be a force in that West. And Darvin, and look, we got to give credit where credit's due. Darvin Ham has done a great job with this team, man. You know, he's proven to be a very, very good coach with this team. He knows what he's doing, the rotations and everything. He got to the Western Conference Finals his first year. He's done a great job with the Lakers.
I definitely think that it's a tough job, you know, the spotlight of the
Yeah.
you know, and having one of the best players to ever play, you know, on the team. So we gotta give credit, man. Like keeping that locker room together, you know, those guys are engaged, and I think you know part of it is you know veteran leadership. But at the end of the day, we've seen teams, you know, with veteran players, and they still don't perform to expectation because the coach can't rally the team.
Yeah, and Will, let's keep it a buck with this. Darvin Ham is an opposing figure as well. You're not going to punk Darvin Ham. let's be real, man. I remember him in the NCAA tournament game when he played at Texas Tech, tearing down the rim against North Carolina. So yeah, you ain't going to punk him. Definitely not going to punk Darvin Ham.
Absolutely. And how crazy is it, man, that LeBron is being coached by somebody he played against?
Ain't that crazy?
Man.
Ain't that crazy?
Man.
Yeah, that's really that tells you the legacy of his greatness, man, and the sustainability that LeBron has. And speaking of which, you wanted to bring up the subject of another James, LeBron's son, Bronny.
Yes, sir.
Making his debut this weekend, from what we understand. Speak on it, Will.
You know, I don't have any real expectations. I'm just happy to see that young man, you know, be cleared after a scary episode, you know, with his heart, you know, be cleared to play, you know, just be out there, you know, with his teammates, you know, and just get to enjoy, you know, the normal college experience, you know, that he signed up for. You know, I think I wasn't sure if Bronny would be a one and done anyway, if, you know, none of the health stuff took place. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I think if you look at his career, you know, from high school, you know, he's a player that improved each year, you know, and became an impact player. You know, I think it would be kind of tough for him to play major minutes. I mean, USC, they got a lot of, you know, contributors in that backcourt, you know, Boogie Ellis, you know, Isaiah Collier, you know, and some of the other returning players on the wing.
Isaiah Collier is special, man. He's definitely a lottery pick, man. And you see how big he's a big point guard too, like physically imposing point guard. Very, very, like, you know. Yeah, he looks like who?
Like a linebacker.
Yeah, he does, man. He does like a linebacker. He's a great player. Definitely on the college level. He's had some great games this year for USC. I agree with you, man. There should be no expectations for Bronny. Just be happy that the young man is playing what he loves. And he was probably the most scrutinized high school player that we've seen in recent memory. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of people that were hating on Bronny. And like you said, I watched that kid improve in 4 years. He didn't get there by being LeBron James' son. He would have been a solid player on his own, especially you saw the improvement last year, his senior year in high school, the way he played. Mm-hmm. He was worth that McDonald's All-American pick that he got. That, you know, people say, well, you know, that's LeBron's son. No, he deserved to be in that game. He had some big games last year for Sierra Canyon, which is also a national powerhouse. And we got to remember, he played on some talented teams, especially his freshman year with B.J. Boston and that crew that was there his freshman year, you know, and then the kid, what's his name, Bailey, that played at UCLA, another one. So he had to wait his turn to get the chance to really, Amari Bailey. He really had to wait his turn last year to show what he can do. And he played very well. And look, he's going to be, if he isn't an NBA player, which I think he will be, but if he isn't, the kid is doing something that he loves. He loves playing college basketball. And we should all be rooting for Bronny James to have a healthy, not only game, but career. So this kid could live out his dreams of playing with his father, eventually the NBA. Some people say, well, Bronny James' ceiling is Drew Holiday. If it's Drew Holiday, that's a hell of a career.
Mm-hmm. Big time
That's
player.
a great career. I think I say 99% of people on the planet who play basketball would like to have a career like Drew Holiday.
Champion, all-star, sign me up.
Yeah, champion, all-star, Olympic gold medalist.
Mm-hmm. Max contract.
It's like I always say. If you play in the NBA, I don't care if you played one game or 2,000 games. If you make it to that level, you are not a bum. Again, I will repeat for those from last week, in case you missed it. Only over 4,000 men have ever played in the NBA. History, 76-year history, 77-year history of the NBA. Only 4,000 men have ever played this game out of 7 billion people on the planet. Think about that for a minute. And if you call an NBA player a bum or whatever, let Brian, what's his name? Yeah. He'll teach you how he'll roast you.
Mm-hmm.
We saw what happened with that. So, with Bronny James, wish this kid the best, healthy year. Hope he has an impact year. And he probably will play one more year because of what happened. But I think he can be a player that will get to the NBA and could be a contributor to the NBA.
No, I would love to see year 2 Bronny because, Collier likely to be going.
Yeah.
And some of those other players might be going as well. And I'd like to see Bronny get a chance to,
to carry a team.
Yeah, fully healthy season and, be a key piece, So, like you said, man, wish him nothing but the best, fully healthy, rest of his career, man. And I'm just happy to see it unfold, man. Like, we talked about the Wagner family, potential to be, 3 generations of NBA players. Now, that's history in itself. But to potentially have a father and son in the NBA at the same time and on the same team, man, listen, they better start writing the script to the movie at this point.
Right. And let's not forget about the youngest James son, Bryce.
Mm-hmm.
He's a player too.
I'll be honest. I think Bryce might end up being better than Bronny. He's already taller. He's got a little bit more dynamic of an offensive game, and it's going to be interesting, man.
Hey, man, I look at it like this here. Like I said, if they both make the league, that's something to say in itself. And just imagine they both make the league as LeBron James' sons. I mean, my goodness, that's an accomplishment in itself. Your dad is one of the legendary athletes in the history of sports.
Yep.
And you're carrying that legacy potentially to go on to play in the NBA. And his daughter, WNBA. Eventually, she looks like a hooper. If you see her in that commercial, she told her dad, check up, So, we might have to watch her in about another 10 years or so to see what she does with her life.
Hey, man, I'm a girl dad. Listen, I'll have Zori James jerseys for the whole family.
And I think she's around the same age as one of your daughters, right? So, yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, Will, this has been another great show. We're in episode 2, man. Episode 2. Looking forward to episode 3 definitely next week. We have to thank the people who tuned in last week and supported our show, man. Too many names. You know who some of y'all are. Even some of my coworkers that I work with, they even tuned in. And Hey man, we appreciate all our fans and for people who are following us, man. You know, we really do appreciate it. But I guess we're at the end of the show now. As we say, Will, you have any shout outs you want to kick out?
Well, of course, man. The first shout out, as always, man, is more of a dedication to our brother, Sammy J,
Right.
and to the legend, your father, John Polk. We wouldn't be doing it without them. So
we wouldn't be doing it without them, man. We definitely wouldn't be doing it without them, man. Definitely. And yeah, we definitely miss them, man. But I know they're looking over us, and hopefully we're making them proud, man, of what we're doing.
Absolutely, man.
By doing this podcast, man. And I guess I say this is the end of the show. And thank you for the supporters who are going to be supporting this as well, watching this show. And I'm going to leave you with this saying, man. When you wake up tomorrow, it's a better day than yesterday. With those words right there, on behalf of Will Lyons, JP, John Polk, we say peace and have a great week, everybody.